car.
Protect your pocket Sunday at 6 on Town Hall.
Saudi Arabia, a pledge from the top. Those who remain behind will be safer. In Denver, lawyers for the Oklahoma bombing suspects wrap up a pretrial hearing demanding key evidence be thrown out. And from France tonight, could ketchup kill the world's most famous cuisine?
From ABC, this is World News Saturday. Here's Aaron Brown.
Good evening. 43 of the Americans wounded in the terrorist bombing in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday arrived home today at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. As their families watched from the ground, 5 F-15 fighters paid tribute to the 19 Americans who died in the attack. The jets flying in the so-called missing man formation, a lone plane splitting off from the group. Accompanying the wounded home, a half a dozen pilots who are finishing their rotations in the Gulf. And even as these Americans come home, more than 100 others at Eglin are preparing to head out to the Gulf. And in the Gulf in Saudi Arabia tonight, Secretary of Defense William Perry promised that those coming and those still there will be better protected. Perry made the pledge as he toured the scene of the attack. From Tehran, ABC's Bill Redeker.
As the Secretary took in the spectacle of the massive bombing and the 30-foot deep crater the bomb produced, the reality of how difficult it is to fight terrorism seemed to sink in.
Oh, it's absolutely devastating.
Perry visited the injured, thanked the chaplains and doctors, and told the pilots who enforced the no-fly zone in Iraq that the U.S. was still committed to their safety and their mission.
The reason nobody is coming up to engage you is precisely because you are here.
On strengthening security, Perry announced that armed patrols will be beefed up, living quarters that face public streets will be vacated, concrete barriers and perimeter fences reinstalled, creating a much larger security zone around the compound. The commander of the Air Force requested that this spring, but the Saudis had refused. They began installing the new barriers last night.
Nobody's going to be able to drive up any sort of vehicle and get right next to us the way they did before.
Despite the new measures, many here say they are still anxious about the threat of terrorism and believe that it is impossible to fully secure the compound.
Terrorism is almost impossible to stop 110%.
If they want to get you, they will. They will do it.
Given last November's bombing in Riyadh, and now this one, the Defense Secretary was asked if he is worried about a trend.
2 bombings do not make a trend. They do expose a vulnerability. We have to take that vulnerability very seriously.
Late this afternoon, there was proof of that as the first expanded security patrol was deployed around the compound. Bill Redeker, ABC News, Tehran.
President Clinton today assigned retired Army General Wayne Downing to study security at all U.S. military bases in the Middle East and to report to Secretary Perry within 45 days. The president is on his way home from France tonight, having wrapped up the economic summit, which in the end dealt more with terrorism than economics. Here's ABC's Ann Compton.
President Clinton got from his summit colleagues a strong condemnation of terrorism, along with 40 law enforcement proposals to better catch and convict international criminals. But those would not have prevented the truck bomb at the Saudi air base. The president insisted at a lakeside news conference set among flowers and gnats that even the high security alert at the Dhahran base was no match for a bomb that big.
They did not believe that, based on past terrorist practice, that a bomb that big could be exploded, could be put together and delivered and exploded at that point. That's frankly what happened.
The U.S. also pushed the summit partners for more pressure on Bosnian Serbs, and they agreed to the threat of new economic sanctions if Radovan Karadzic, indicted on war crimes, is not forced out soon.
We want Mr. Karadzic, in the words of the Secretary of State, out of power and out of influence. And we think that is very important.
Terrorism overshadowed all the issues in Lyon. President Clinton said that no amount of politics will stop the threat.
Our generation's time is going to be increasingly occupied with dealing with the terrorists, but it's an important part of our struggle to make this a civilized and sane world, and we have to continue to do it. And I'm very proud of those people that served, and I grieve for those who died and their families.
That message of pride and grief is what President Clinton carries with him tonight to Florida. He wants to assure the American military families there that the U.S. is trying to do all it can to make their service safe. Ann Compton, ABC News, Lyon, France.
The president also denied today that First Lady Hillary Clinton was instrumental in the hiring of Craig Livingstone, the man at the center of that flap over the files, the FBI files, the White House improperly obtained. The allegation is one of many made in a new book authored by former FBI agent Gary Aldrich, who was part of the White House security operation before he took early retirement. The White House calls Aldrich's book salacious and inauthentic and lobbied news organizations, including ABC News, not to give Aldrich a forum to make his charges. Aldrich will appear tomorrow on This Week with David Brinkley. So will top White House aide George Stephanopoulos. In the Oklahoma City bombing case, a federal judge will now decide whether to throw out key evidence against suspect Terry Nichols. We'll be back with that story in just a moment. And coming up a little bit later, it's been 25 years since the under-21 set got the right to vote. What have they done with it? And is cyberspace ready to replace the newsstand?
This is World News Saturday, brought to you by Ensure.
Bobby said he beat you. He's such a kidder.
He wasn't kidding.
Well, maybe he just got lucky.
3 in a row.
Well, maybe we need a new game plan.
Introducing new Ensure Light. #1 doctor recommended. Low in fat and only 200 calories. Complete balanced nutrition to help you stay healthy, active, energetic.
I think I'm ready for another.
Another chocolate?
No, another game.
New Ensure Light. Drink to your health.
Hi, honey. Just you and me tonight.
And chicken marsala.
Your favorite.
Oh, but it gave me heartburn last time.
Not tonight.
But it's too late for Pepcid AC. The package says you've got to take it an hour before eating to prevent heartburn.
Forget that hour stuff. I got you Tagamet HB.
Tagamet HB promises to prevent heartburn in half the time. Just read the label, and it starts to control acid faster than Pepcid AC.
So I can take it now and not get heartburn.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Tagamet HB, advanced prevention of heartburn in half the time.
The second hurricane of this very young season has slammed into Mexico's southwest coast. It's called Hurricane Boris. It flooded hotels, downed trees with winds up to 90 miles an hour, and at least one person is reported dead. In Denver, what is likely to be the most important of the pretrial hearings in the Oklahoma City bombing case, as lawyers for Terry Nichols argue that some of the most damning evidence against their client and Timothy McVeigh be thrown out. Their argument? The FBI used trickery and coercion. ABC's Brian Rooney is in Denver.
When they searched Terry Nichols' home, FBI agents found stolen weapons, blasting caps, and fertilizer similar to what was used in the Oklahoma bomb. That evidence and all the statements Nichols made to FBI agents would be thrown out if the defense lawyers win their motion.
The Constitution that has served us so well should not be another victim of the events in Oklahoma City.
2 days after the bombing, Nichols went to the police in Harrington, Kansas, and volunteered to speak with FBI agents. Agents interviewed Nichols for 9 hours without a lawyer to advise him. Nichols' lawyers now say his statements were not truly voluntary because he didn't know all the facts. They say agents misled Nichols to believe he was not a suspect and free to go, even while they prepared a warrant for his arrest and sealed his home as a crime scene. Nichols' Filipino wife, Marife, testified that she was held a virtual prisoner for 37 days while FBI agents coerced her to give written permission for agents to keep searching the Nichols home.
To have an act be voluntary, you have to know all the relevant facts, and then you have to give an informed consent.
Agent Tom Price did admit that he received an arrest warrant for Nichols at 5 in the afternoon and never told Nichols. But the government says the FBI had no obligation to tell Nichols about the warrant until they actually used it.
The Supreme Court precedent says that deceptive practices are one factor, and only one factor in determining voluntariness.
Tim McVeigh also has an interest in knocking out the Nichols evidence. There's a receipt for 2,000 pounds of fertilizer with McVeigh's fingerprint on it. And in his 9-hour interview with the FBI, Nichols mentioned McVeigh at least 60 times. Brian Rooney, ABC News, Denver.
Tomorrow marks the 25th anniversary of the constitutional amendment that lowered the voting age to 18. Not everyone thought that was a great idea then, and one of the concerns was that 18-year-olds, then very politically active, would dramatically change the political balance in the country. That was the concern. Here's the reality from ABC's Deborah Weiner.
25 years ago, the youth of America had much to be angry about. Old enough to fight in the jungles of Vietnam, yet barred from the voting booths at home. It was a time when young people wanted their voices to be heard.
A lot of people are going...
Anti-war protester Tom Hayden was in the forefront.
The draft board could come and get you, and you could not vote for or against politicians that were going to send you to Vietnam. So you were disenfranchised in a life and death way.
The year after the voting age was lowered, more than 48% of the newly registered voters participated in the 1972 presidential election. But that turned out to be the high mark. Turnout steadily declined for 2 decades. It took a direct appeal to the young by the Clinton-Gore campaign to bring them back to the polls. Still, in 1992, only about 38% voted, and interest may be falling off again.
A recent survey of the nation's college freshmen found political interest at its lowest level in 30 years. Fewer freshmen keep up to date with politics or discuss politics, and a growing number feel that an individual can do little to change society.
I don't think we feel like we can't make a difference, but it just seems so hard that there's not much point.
I don't have that much control. I just, have the voice of the voter, but it doesn't seem like that's what the politicians are listening to.
Many blame the media and politicians for not keeping young voters interested.
The relevance of national politics is not clear to them. It's not clear to them because they don't understand politics as well as they should, and it's not clear to them because the media does not present it in a way that makes it relevant.
Would you like to register to vote?
Some young people are trying to change that. MTV's Choose or Lose bus has crisscrossed the country 3 times this year, setting up tables and registering voters the old-fashioned way. And now there is the modern way, in cyberspace. In its first week online, the organization Rock the Vote registered 6,000, mostly young people. 25 years after they were granted the right to vote, young people are trying to convince themselves their vote counts, because just having that right has not been incentive enough. Deborah Weiner, ABC News, Washington.
Latinos are another group that could have considerably more political clout if they voted in greater numbers. But they don't. This weekend in Los Angeles at the National Association of Latino Elected Officials Conference, they are trying to change that. ABC's Antonio Mora explains how.
Congratulations. Now you're registered to vote. You'll be getting...
Felisol Mendez became an American citizen last month, a registered voter yesterday.
Even if I can't change the world, I can make a difference on how the government runs.
Come together and vote.
Spurred on by attacks on immigration, affirmative action, and bilingual education, Latino leaders have launched a campaign to naturalize immigrants and get them on the voting rolls.
If you look at these issues that are driving the political agenda today, they're clearly about the Latino community of the United States. They're about us, our families, and our communities.
But in the 1992 election, less than half of eligible Latinos voted, as opposed to 2/3 of non-Latinos.
The problem with the Latino vote has been over the years that not enough register and they don't come out to vote. In places where they come out to vote, they can be very powerful.
Powerful because Latinos are concentrated in 9 states that account for almost 40% of electoral votes. While their turnout is still low, Latinos are voting in greater numbers. Only 2.5 million voted in 1980. The goal this year, 5 million. Candidates have taken notice, targeting specific programs at Latino voters. Both parties pitched their platforms at the Latino Elected Officials Convention in Los Angeles.
The Latinos overwhelmingly like our message. They like the traditional values that we stand for, the hard work, the thrift.
Latinos should vote for the president because his agenda resonates with our own prospects for the future.
Latinos are soon expected to become America's largest minority, and within 50 years, a full quarter of America's population. Getting them to fulfill their political potential is the challenge facing Latino leaders in the future. Antonio Mora, ABC News, New York.
When World News Saturday continues to Ireland, where a courageous voice against evil was laid to rest today.
I could have sent the money Western Union. Did you really need the money today? Just tell me. If you had told me you needed the money really fast, I would have sent it.
If you didn't send the money Western Union, did you really send the money?
Just tell them to wait.
Western Union, the fastest way to send money worldwide.
No, I didn't send the money Western Union, but I figured, what's the difference? 601...
If you didn't send the money Western Union, did you really send the money?
Sorry it didn't get there, but I wouldn't worry.
Western Union, the fastest way to send money worldwide.
I hated the taste. The first day.
Arm & Hammer Dental Care's unique taste tells you it's working.
The second day, I noticed my mouth felt cleaner.
That clean feeling says it has twice the baking soda of other brands.
And that clean feeling lasted for hours.
Its continuous action formula helps fight plaque for hours.
By day 5, I was hooked. I'll never brush with ordinary toothpaste again.
Give us 5 days. We're sure you'll switch to Arm & Hammer's unique, clean feeling of healthy teeth and gums. Also with baking soda and peroxide.
Look at that damage.
Where'd I go wrong?
You should have waterproofed. New improved Thompson's Water Seal Waterproofer has more power for more protection. Long-lasting protection. Don't wait till it's too late. Thompson's is protection.
You couldn't predict your heartburn, so Pepcid AC couldn't prevent it. Now what do? Maalox starts to work on stomach acid in about 1 minute. Pepcid AC could take over 45 minutes to start working. So make 1 minute Maalox the fast choice for you.
People today are living longer and healthier lives. And at Nature Made, we like to think we've been a part of it. As the makers of vitamin and mineral supplements that are recommended by pharmacists more than 1,000 times a day. Nature Made, recommended by pharmacists, made for a lifetime.
British Prime Minister John Major said today he believes the IRA was behind that mortar attack on a British military base in Germany. No one was injured last night at the facility, which is in northern Germany, but the damage was extensive. The IRA ended its 17-month ceasefire last February. In Ireland today, it was a funeral that brought a shocked country together. The death of a young and courageous journalist has caused Ireland to focus on a growing problem, a problem familiar to Americans, drugs and gangsters. Here's ABC's Mike Lee.
The nation's top leaders came to pay their respects today. Dozens of lawmakers, judges, police, and journalists there to bury one of their own who had the courage to stand up to organized crime. Veronica Guerin was Ireland's top investigative reporter. Her shocking articles helped to awaken the public to a dark, disturbing side of Irish life, the growing power of drug traffickers. She had guts, never giving in despite vicious threats from the gangsters she wrote about, despite an armed attack at her home last year in which she was wounded, and despite being severely beaten. Late last year, Veronica said she knew who was trying to kill her.
He is a man who has no morals at all and will take somebody's life without a second thought.
Veronica Guerin was ambushed in her car and murdered this week. 5 shots at point-blank range in her head and neck. She leaves behind her 7-year-old son, her husband, and many admirers, worried that part of everyone's freedom may have died.
When a journalist going about her work, probing the criminal underworld, armed only with her pen, is gunned down in broad daylight. It is the ultimate attack on freedom of speech and ultimately on democracy itself.
Even in death, Veronica Guerin's reporting continues. Tomorrow's edition of the Irish Independent will quote her as naming the man she claimed attacked and threatened to kill her. He will appear in court next month. Irish Prime Minister John Bruton, aware that her murder has dramatized the government's failure to control drug crime, has now promised tough new laws. Days before her murder, Veronica Guerin said of her dangerous job, "I'd probably give it up if I didn't think my work made a difference." Mike Lee, ABC News, London.
We'll be right back.
No matter what kind of call your business makes, AT&T stands behind it. This is the most powerful communications network in the world. And if your call ever runs into trouble, the network sends you around it. Or if a cable gets cut, it won't affect you. No other network handles so much business, and no other network guarantees all of it. Only AT&T stands behind every kind of call your business makes. Where does your phone company stand? AT&T, for the life of your business.
Lysol disinfectant spray introduces crisp linen scent. Use number 86. that mysterious smell in the curtains. Use number 16, those foul bacteria left on the fridge. New crisp linen Lysol spray. There's nothing this can't do.
Your eerie, unpredictable septic system. It has the power to take over your entire house. Don't let it happen. Today, there's Ultra Ridex Liquid. You can't buy a more effective treatment. The only one that eats both grease and paper. With maintenance, it helps keep your system flowing to prevent backups. Control it with Ultra Ridex.
Why pour, measure, lug, splash, and push to clean your hardwood floors when there's Mop & Glow Hardwood Floor Cleaner? Just squirt and mop. No dulling residue, no rinsing. It couldn't be easier. Mop & Glow Hardwood Floor Cleaner. One step and it's clean. And for no wax and regular floors, try Mop & Glow Floor Shine. It seals out dirt to make cleaning easier.
Sandwiches taste better when somebody else makes them. But you gotta make it with good stuff, like Healthy Choice cold cuts. There's less salt, only 1 gram of fat. So with Healthy Choice, I can eat what I like. Call me picky, just don't call me late for lunch.
Jerry West and the Big O rediscovered the power of Anacin.
For a towering headache.
Regular strength Bayer, Bufferin, or even Tylenol can't work like Anacin.
With Anacin, I'd still be playing.
That's the coos.
The power of Anacin for towering headaches.
This week, the magazine Slate made its debut. You haven't heard about Slate, the next generation in magazines? Why, where have you been? Clearly not online. Slate, its publishers say, will revolutionize both magazines and the internet. And they may be right, eventually. Here's ABC's Deborah Amos.
What's the difference between these magazines and this magazine? It turns out, not much. Slate, Microsoft's first electronic magazine, debuted this week, despite a talking poet.
And then at midnight, as we started to descend,
despite a lively theme song,
I've met some very nice people.
Slate is about words. Lots of words. More like a traditional print magazine than anything on the internet today.
This is really for a more narrow market of the politically and culturally engaged reader.
A reader who might have heard of Slate's editor, Michael Kinsley. A reader that's highly educated and highly paid.
People who have access to a computer but are not necessarily computer junkies.
It's an experiment in whether people who like to read words as opposed to lots of technological bells and whistles will return week after week and pay money in order to read an online magazine.
It's an experiment that will be closely watched. With more than 200 free magazines already online, will Slate keep its readers when they start charging $20 a year?
It was very bland, to tell you the truth, to be quite honest with you.
Here at the Cyber Cafe in New York, young customers are used to the dazzle of high-tech sites. But Slate is after another audience, grown-up, highbrow, willing to pay. And just in case they're not on the net yet, Microsoft announced that Slate will be available in a very old technology, paper, in the next couple of weeks.
One of the things they found is that this low-tech thing called paper can be more efficient, and that most people probably are still more comfortable thumbing the pages of a magazine than clicking their way through cyberspace.
After spending millions to develop Slate Online, Microsoft is hedging their bets. The future may not be here just yet. Deborah Amos, ABC News, New York.
In London today, it was Back to the Future. Rock fans who weren't even born when these stars recorded their first hits proved that something called veteran rock is alive and well. It was the largest rock concert there in over 25 years, featuring middle-aged legends Bob Dylan, Eric Clapton, and Roger Daltrey. Proceeds went to a charity led by a middle-aged fan, Prince Charles. In Los Angeles, a reason to smile. We told you about the young girl named Chelsea Thomas who was born without the ability to smile. Well, today, after a series of operations, Chelsea celebrated her 8th birthday at Disneyland, and now, like just about every other 8-year-old on a visit to the Magic Kingdom, she smiles. When we continue, the great chefs of France in a stew over the invasion of foreign flavors.
You want dazzling whiter teeth? Aquafresh whitening with fluoride is clinically proven to whiten better than Crest. What's in this anyway? The patented TriClean formula safely breaks up stains to help get your teeth their whitest. Aquafresh whitening for dazzling whiter teeth.
Last week I had a burger, no problem. Today, a burger and heartburn. Same food, same guy. Go figure. Now, Pepcid AC says to take them an hour before I might get heartburn. But if I can't predict it, they can't prevent it. Hey, I know Maalox goes to work fast.
Maalox starts to work on stomach acid in about 1 minute. Pepcid AC could take over 45 minutes to start working.
Thanks, Maalox. And not a minute too soon.
Make 1 minute Maalox the fast choice for you. And try new improved Maalox tablets. The strongest Maalox tablets ever.
Dear Robert, you know I've had trouble sleeping, so I took your advice and got Unisol. It felt good to hear the pharmacist say it's not habit forming, and even better after getting a wonderful night's sleep.
Thanks to you. Love, Mom.
Sunday on This Week, the latest on the FBI files, the first TV interview with former FBI agent Gary Aldrich, and the controversy of his new book, and the latest on the bombing in Saudi Arabia with Defense Secretary William Perry. Sunday.
Finally, the president is coming home tonight following the economic summit and one last dinner with French President Jacques Chirac in Paris. Mr. Clinton is leaving a nation in the midst of an identity crisis, worried about English phrases infecting the language, American culture dominating its entertainment, and now one of the holiest of French shrines is threatened. Food. Here's ABC's Jim Bitterman.
In a nation where cooks can climb to the top of the social heap and dessert can be a Kodak moment, the greatest chefs in the land are gathering in distress.
French cuisine is in grave danger. French restaurants have lost their reputation. French taste may disappear.
What so upsets the masters of mix is what they believe to be nothing short of an invasion. Strange and foreign tastes, many of them from the United States, are finding their way onto restaurant tables. Unfamiliar non-French products are creeping onto supermarket shelves. Good grief, is that a jar of marshmallow fluff? But the worst, they say, is that some so-called French chefs, desperate to be modern, have abandoned traditionally subtle flavors for plates loaded down with exotic spices and bizarre combinations of food. They call it fusion cooking, more devastating than any atomic weapon.
Instead of going back to ingredients and letting them stick and letting them be in harmony, by throwing a lot of funny things quickly, we are destroying a whole heritage.
At least part of the angst is economic. Overspiced and underpriced restaurant chains here are draining away customers from the classic French kitchen. At the famous Cordon Bleu cooking school, the professor teaches all the traditional French methods, but the students are preparing to be inventive.
Food is very trendy, and you have to be up on the trends. The customers are up on it, and you as a chef have to be up on it too.
Perhaps, but the traditionalists are now stirring up a campaign against the trend. This fall, 2,000 chefs will fan out across the country into subways and schools and other public places, armed with their basic ingredients and prepared dishes, hoping to raise the alarm among their countrymen about their endangered culinary heritage. Other businesses may go global, but when it comes to restaurants, the chefs insist the French must draw a line at the kitchen door. Jim Bitterman, ABC News, Paris.
That's our report for tonight. I'm Aaron Brown for all of us at ABC News. Good night.